Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel, and oh no, the sky is falling, or it's about to, allegedly. Here's the headline from the Daily Hodl. Macro expert issues apocalyptic forecast, warns historic economic collapse likely. Now, so here's the lens through which I am viewing all this, because of course this is an XRP-centric channel, damn it, and that's what it's always going to be. I am thankful that I discovered crypto no later in life than I did. I wish I could have been here, closer to the inception of it. But hey, you know what? Being here almost 3 years at this point, super duper. And I think especially what we're seeing from governments the world over, the way that they're abusing their financial sovereignty effectively. Just for instance, look, I love my country. I'm an American. I live in the Midwest in the United States, but I do not like the endless printing of money. I think that's terrible, and history has already showed us how this movie plays out. When you debase your fiat currency to such a degree, it doesn't last forever, And so maybe it's going to be harder for this thing to go down in flames purely because, in this case, the United States dollar is the global reserve. But my gosh, just don't think just because the dollar hasn't crashed before that it cannot happen. We've seen this movie before. Which brings me to my feelings about crypto and specifically XRP. While the United States dollar is getting printed into oblivion, its market cap infinity, the XRP is a digital asset that is provably scarce. If evenly distributed across all humans on the planet, obviously this would never happen, but just to get you an idea of how little there is. If each human had the exact same amount of XRP, it would be something like 12 or 13 XRP per person. Think about that. Now, obviously, again, it would never go down like that, but I covered that fun little factoid just to illustrate the point that there is not that much XRP, and here we are, or at least, I don't know if you are, I assume you are if you're listening to a channel like this, but I'm scooping up a bunch of XRP, right? Because it's scarce. I think that people are going to continue to value scarce assets moving forward, and I think that those assets that also are solving a real-world problem will be the ones to stick around that will end up garnering more interest, via investment vehicles like cryptocurrency exchanges, like money actually flowing into all of this. To me, that is of tremendous importance here. So we've got this headline, and then there is this one also from Decrypt. IMF, Bretton Woods moment needed to save economy and Bitcoin too? ? So lots to talk about here. Before we go any further, if you would please delicately tap that like button, I would definitely appreciate the support. And also go ahead and subscribe to the Moon Lambo channel. Take my free content, damn it. Shout out to the Rock XRP, who shared this first piece with me from the Daily Hodl and wrote, "Wow, really? You don't say." And so, and for those of you that have been listening to me for a while, I'm not some sort of doomsday type of guy. I consider myself a realist. By nature, I'm more of an optimist, I'd say. I generally wake up each day in a happy mood, and so on and so forth, which I really like. I'm just built like that by nature. But I'm also a realist, and I'm not just going to be happy in la-la land. And so I acknowledge that bad stuff is happening right now. I haven't been completely sold on the idea of this massive collapse, but I think it would be foolish, given what's happening around the world, to just think that it couldn't ever happen, right? And so I'm not buying into, in the short term, any sort of hyperinflation with the United States dollar or anything like that. Certainly not in the short term. I don't think it's impossible. I'm just trying to make a reasonable, pragmatic approach to the degree that's possible, and just kind of analyze everything in good faith and just try and determine what actually makes the most reasonable sense here. Now, David Hunter, the chief macro strategist at Contrarian Macro Advisors, is issuing an apocalyptic forecast about a historic economic collapse unlike the world has seen in 75 years. In a new interview on the Contrarian Investor podcast, Hunter says a parabolic rise in equities will set the stage for a huge market crash. And here's a quote. "I think we're going to see something that includes a very large financial crisis, probably the largest financial crisis in history, including major bank failures. Not so much here, but Europe, maybe Asia banks, and also a lot of involuntary debt liquidation. Now, though he thinks a crash is imminent, Hunter believes that the steepest part of the current upward rally is still ahead of us and will occur between now and around the time of the U.S. election. Here's another quote. It's been a hell of a ride for March. I'm still looking for, and actually been using since March, a 4,200 to 4,500 number for the S&P. Whew. I think the NASDAQ could get to 15,000. We've been through a bit of a rocky period here in September, and frankly, kind of up and down through the summer and into September. I think we're poised for the next leg up, which I think will be the final move into a secular top. Now, look, I don't have a financial background. I'm not offering financial advice. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write ever. That would be a terrible idea. I'll share with you my everyday Joe Schmo opinion, though, because it's fun to talk about this stuff and make YouTube videos. But here's one of the reasons that I'm kind of skeptical of a crash in the short term. Now, obviously, economic output in real terms substantially down thanks to what has happened globally with this pandemic, right? Nonetheless, stock prices going up while economic output going down. Well, it's not hard to figure out why this is. Money's being printed and it's being thrown into the assets. So as long as money's continuing to be printed, and look, I'm not an advocate for that. I'm just observing what's happening. I don't see how you're going to have this disastrous scenario in the short term, specifically in the short term. Like, to me, that's kind of a hard sell. Like, why would stocks not keep going the way that they're going if we're just printing more money? And we already see, like, this is how humans are behaving with this newly printed money. It's going into stocks, it's going into gold, it's going into crypto, actually. And so I don't see that turning around. Now, the economic, the actual productivity, that's in the tank. I got that. Like, I'm not going to dispute that. But anyway, Hunter highlights that the ugly crash will likely follow the parabolic ascent primarily due to the inability of businesses to fully recover from the impacts of the global pandemic. And here's another quote. You get the first wave through, and then the government steps in and gives you some ability to get through a period of time. But if you can't get the economy back up on its feet and restaurants open and all that at normal levels, they only have staying power for so long, and then you get that second wave where it's the insolvency phase of the crisis, and where you do get many companies that hung on for this year not being able to hang on longer. Now, Hunter also adds that big policy missteps by the Federal Reserve could catalyze the meltdown. And here's another quote. So the second phase of the bust, you've still got an awful lot of fragility in the system. Big chunks of the economy that are nowhere near getting the benefit of the recovery, and all those things start coming back at you. If the Fed pauses, I think this thing could unwind very fast. And let's remember, this is a global bust, so it may not even be the U.S. that's the main problem next year. It may be Europe. It may be some mistake in Asia. There's so many problems out there because of what the virus has done across the globe. And fair enough, like, his concerns are completely legit. I'm not disputing that either. But where do you think money's going to flow? Because whatever collapses, there's going to be an exodus to something else. And so I'm betting on scarce assets ultimately doing well. So even if, like we saw in March, even if the stock market were to crash and as a result the crypto asset class followed, to me that would represent an opportunity. And we saw what happened in March. There was a quick crash, and then it just talk about a rebound. And so the people actually bought in at the time ended up doing quite well. But I still think that as it becomes more and more crystal clear that governments are just abusing the power they have in terms of printing money, just my humble opinion here, I think that there's going to be, as more time passes, more of a flight into scarce digital assets, and especially those like XRP that do something. There's real utility. I think a lot of money isn't going to end up ultimately flowing into the space. And so I couldn't be more thrilled that I at least came across this asset class when I did almost 3 years ago. And now there's this piece from Decrypt. IMF, Bretton Woods moment needed to save economy and Bitcoin too? Just like the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, governments around the world must work together to help save the world economy, the IMF has said. The head of the IMF, International Monetary Fund, this week called for a new Bretton Woods moment. IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva, might be saying that right, I don't know, said Thursday at the annual meeting of the IMF's Board of Governors that governments must cooperate to glue the global economy back together after it fell apart this year due to the pandemic. Today we face a new Bretton Woods moment, a pandemic that has already cost more than 1 million lives, she said. Let's go a little bit further. The Bretton Woods Agreement was signed in 1944 by 44 allied nations. Its signatories agreed that exchange rates would be pegged to the price of gold, among other things. The agreement was abandoned in 1973, but showed that economic cooperation can help nations through strife. And the IMF predicts that the pandemic will shrink the world's economy by 4.4% this year and remove $11 trillion of economic output by next year. Once again, we face two massive tasks: to fight the crisis today and build a better tomorrow, said Georgieva. And she said that in the statement that governments must adhere to 3 imperatives when considering how to save the global economy. First, issue the right economic policies. Second, invest in people. Third, focus on climate change. And again, that's a political thing. I'm not going to be making commentary on that on this channel. That is not what this channel is for. I'm just reporting on it. Economic policies should be tailored to each country's needs, she said. However, she urges all countries to move towards greater debt transparency, increased creditor coordination, as well as private sector support. And so it's not surprising that we're seeing stories like this, correct? Like, I mean, it would be weird if we didn't see stories like this given what's happened. In fact, if anything, I was a little surprised when they saw that number of only 4.4% reduction in terms of shrinkage of the world's economy. I was like, that's much smaller than what I would have guessed, to be perfectly honest with you. Now, it's still staggering, obviously, in terms of like the actual impact that it's having on real living humans, but man, I really, you tell me what you think, but I would have guessed if I hadn't seen that figure first that it would have been worse to some fair degree higher than that. I don't know what I would have guessed, but a lot more than that, most certainly here. So, I am never going to be the type that's of the mindset that life is just hopeless and everything's going to be bad. Like, to me, that doesn't even make logical sense. Like, I think that humans are resilient, and bad things can happen. But people bounce back historically. That's just what humans have done. And, bad things happen in life. Like, we're adults about this, right? Let's be adults about this and just recognize that. But I don't think that it needs to ruin, the one experience we have living this particular life. I think that things will ultimately get better, even if they do get worse first. And there's plenty of opportunity out there. And so that's why, despite all of this dumpster fire of a year, 2020, yeah, it freaking sucks. It sucks balls, okay? It sucks balls. It really does. It really does. But there's still opportunity. I mean, you have to know that to be true. And we've all got our stories about how terrible this year has been, and for some people got it worse. I mean, people's jobs are impacted. Look, I get all of that. And beyond that, health, I mean, there's all sorts of reasons to just hate 2020. But that being said, there's still opportunity. And economic output will not be down forever. And I think that the crypto asset class and XRP specifically, it's going to be worth, my humble opinion here, non-professional opinion, so don't buy or sell, but I will be open and share my opinion. I think XRP is going to be worth a fortune relative to where it is right now. And these prices, I don't believe, will be around forever. And even if it goes down lower first, like even if you start to see the stock market tanking again, and even if it's worse than what happened in March, and even if the crypto asset class follows, I don't think that means it's going to be down forever. History has just shown us people are more resilient than that, and markets rebound. They just do. So it would be the same. I believe it would be the same for crypto, even if that happened. So I'm excited to have the opportunity that I've had over the last few years to accumulate XRP. So maybe we should just take a little bit more time to be thankful for the things that we do in life that don't completely suck, despite how terrible 2020 is. It's going to be okay, people. Like, life will go on, right? That's it for this video, though. I am not a financial advisor. Do not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo!